It's Don here from the board. I guess it's time to do some live streaming. I've just turned on the stream. I don't actually know if there's anybody that's going to be on right now. I don't think there is, because right now it says 0, but that doesn't matter because anybody who's coming in to watch this afterwards will see it right from the start, I hope. I think. Anyway, so today's video is just going to be me casually doing a very small build. I'm going to be building a Nyquist one-hand Macropad. Now you can get the Nyquist, not sure what version it's up to, I think it's the 2.0 from Keyboard, which is a great little website where they do a lot of split keyboard stuff. But the Nyquist that I've got today is actually a 1.2, which they had on sale. So it's a 5x6, 6x5 grid kind of matrix, but we'll get to looking at the PCB and all the bits and pieces at a later stage anyway, so that's okay. But first, what I wanted to try was actually doing some switch lubing a little bit more since the other video that I did as well. Now I do apologize that I have a cold at the moment, so I've got a lozenge, I've got a bit of a sore throat, and I sound pretty nasally, but we'll just see how it goes. So hey, hello to Giovanni and Taylor. It's great to see you guys come along and join us on today's stream. So let me switch over to the desktop now, and we can see what kind of shenanigans that I'm getting up to. So just before I started the actual stream proper, I was just taking the switch tops up. Hey, Fluffy Papa, thanks for coming along, and Sebastian and Haru, much appreciated. Now, for those who aren't very familiar with the kind of weird things that I've made in the past, this was actually one of my early versions of the Switch mod station that I had built. This was the version before it went modular. So I'm just sort of giving it a try now since I had it in the drawer and it allows me to do a few more than the newer versions. But what you can see is that there was a bit of a fit issue here because the stem part isn't fitting perfectly. It's a bit on the small side. So I'm just going to just keep plowing on through that. Now, of course, the Nyquist Macropad will take 30 switches, so we'll end up having to do 5 lots of these. Well, as you can see, I'm not very experienced with using these tools. I'm going to just take the spring out so I don't accidentally knock it and let it go flying anywhere. Now, what am I seeing in the chat? So Cameron is saying that he's putting together a gherkin with clears, and Fluffy Pupper is, do I think I'll ever sell these switch modding stations? I'm actually not going to be selling these switch modding stations anymore. I used to. I had them in a resin cast version, but I did a video not that long ago. You'll be able to find it in the video list of this channel where I did the first lubing. The STL file, if you have available to you 3D printing services, either through a company like Shapeways, or through friends, you can actually print the modular version of this yourself. So all the files are actually available there for you. It was just difficult for me to keep casting, especially because these days with the little one, and doing the modular station itself is a much larger cast, so it uses a lot more resin, and yeah, I don't have a lot of baby free space at the moment, whereas when I do casting for artisans, it can sit on my desk and they cure out pretty quick compared to 24 hours, which was what I was using for the mod station. So there you go, that's all 6 that I've done on that row open. Gonna put on some gloves. How is everybody today anyway, besides me, of course, being sick and sounding pretty horrible right now? I know a few of you guys and where you hail from, but some of you I do not know. So if you've never been on the stream before in live chat or whatnot, feel free to make an introduction, and I'm happy to read out, you know, where you're from and stuff like that as well. So I'm going to go with the thin lube, which is there. It's very much like a oily kind of thing. and I've just got some paper there. We'll put that down. That'll probably fall over, and you can already see how glistening it's getting on my fingers. Chokin, great to see you. It's been a while since I've done a stream, so it's been a while since we've had the same time on a live stream, which is great. I hope you're keeping well. I hope everything on your end is doing fantastic. So I'm just gonna use this sponge, this makeup applicator, and as a precaution, I'm just gonna screw that cap back on because I'm afraid if I clumsy it and it falls over, we're gonna be in trouble. Now, I do actually have tweezers today. I went and found them, and that way I should be able to hold these better. Whoa, as long as I don't do that and lose them. And then I should be able to lube them a bit more effectively this time round. So I'm just wiping the side. The focus isn't very good, is it? Now, yeah, there we go. So it's just the little side rails, and on both sides, so that they'll be slightly glistening. And of course, with this makeup applicator, it's pretty good because the foam will sort of take off any excess. I'm fat fingering everything today. And then I'm just going to dab the top of the spring because supposedly that makes a difference. See, this is the early version because I had the tray on the other side, whereas some of the later versions I've got extra trays on that side. But I'm going to have to try to be dexterous when I'm not with my left hand. It's getting almost comical, isn't it, fellas? Sorry, I'm assuming people's genders, but this is a nightmare trying to do it left-handed. Here we go. Oh, I've got to get the spring in too, don't I? Okay, spring on, stem on, and the housing on. Let's line that up, get that in, and ooh, that's nice. Having never lubed Gateron Clears before, with this thin lube, that's definitely notable. You know what? I'm going to switch hands because I'm obviously a lot more skilled with right hand tweezers because I'm right-handed naturally. Well, not naturally, but I am right-handed. And then that way I can sort of get through that a bit easier. So let's just dab that there. And then make sure I have the orientation correct. And let's drop that on top. Oh, man, the chat. Oh, there you go. See, I just knocked over that tube of lube, which is why I had the foresight to cap it a couple of minutes earlier. Nice, 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 nice. All right, let's just move that away a little bit. Okay, so that's a little bit more in the forefront. I actually don't know how, you'll see that on the table, there's a really bright spot there. I've got a LED light source sort of put together, cobbled together, and it's really bright, but it doesn't throw the light very far, so you can see the shading across my face. I was hoping that the brighter light source would help my webcam setup manage to find focus faster. I feel like it does, but I'm not 100% sure that it's doing it super well to make it worthwhile. But that said, the actual front light works really well because I'm also not throwing shadows from the room light, which is behind me in front of the workspace that I used to do. But the downside is this type of light and the frequency is not very good for my wife. It's very unpleasant for her, so I can't use it when she's actually in the room or at home. So I can only use it when she's out and about. So today, my wife and daughter have gone out for a play date, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to do this build. Of course, I've had this Nyquist Macropad for a while now, probably about a month or so. and I figured it would be nice and quick to build as well. And I had somebody ask me when I was actually going to build it yesterday, so I thought, let's go and build it. Just having a look, and I do apologize for the sniffing, but it's just going to happen, at what's going on in the chat. I'm just going to put that in when I get to the bottom of the row. So, Chokan is a proud original mod station owner. He is. I didn't make a lot of sets. Lubed up 80 Gateron yellows, and they feel so nice. Now, yellows are the lighter variant of... heavier variant of the clears, isn't it? Or are they the lighter variant of the tactile browns? There's just so many switch types now that it's going to get really difficult for people to remember them all. Because now you got to talk about box yellows as well, which if somebody's new to it, they'll be confused if they've never heard of one of the other brands and people talk about yellows. Gateron Clears, 35 gram goodness. Taylor says got a set of those switch top removers, and one's cast in aluminium that you set switch in and disassembles. Yeah, so I did see that the aluminium block switch opener, the one where it's the two halves, where you basically just go and it opens. But that's a little bit messy for me in the sense that once you open it, you still got to pull the bits out and work with it. So when I built this, I wanted it to be, oh, that's nice. I wanted it to be so that you could lay out your switches like what I've done here. And then it allows you to do a bunch of them, you know, concurrently, simultaneously. Well, not simultaneously, but progressively. You can just work your way through them. So you open them all, and then you lube them all, and then you close them all, that kind of thing. Or you lift them out just like I'm doing. So that's the first 5. Now the Nyquist is a 30 switch pad, so we'll be doing 5 rows of this. So we're almost there at Christmas. We're 2 weeks away. Kevin and I have just recorded an episode last night for the podcast. I got about 4 hours of sleep before I had to get up this morning, so I'm running on a typical Sunday. Would be nice to have other tools as well that could do this a little bit easier, but this switch opener does work, but I do find it can be a little bit fiddly in my station. But of course this is an earlier variant of the station as well. See, I'm not quite sure what's happening there, why it's popping out. Either I'm not getting it deep enough, or these housings aren't great, or I'm applying... I think I'm damaging the housing. I've got one side open on this one. Do I just need to lever it and then watch the pieces go flying everywhere? Oh, making an absolute mess of opening this, aren't I? I think that that tool, that one-piece metal tool, would work really well in this kind of situation. So I still end up having to use my hands to separate this switch. Okay, there we go. Let's pull that out. You know what? I'm just going to leave the spring in it, because it's just going to have to go back in anyway. Ugh. Struggling today with this cold, but I thought I really need to do a live stream. I haven't done one in ages. I got so much stuff that still needs to be built, and what better way to make myself suffer in front of a camera than to hang out with friends, right? Okay. I think I've got lube in my hands too, and that's not helping. I wonder if cherry switches are actually easier to pop out with this tool compared to other brands of switches, because it may be also because the clear plastic top is firmer than the black plastic original cherry tops. Wow, this is killing me. It's taken forever. I don't know how people can do this. Am I going to have to abandon the lubing part because this will take like an entire day to open these? There we go. Yeah, this is getting ridiculous. What do you reckon, people? Should I persist because this will take a while? I can actually see the plastic is bending. It's distorting on this as I try and open it. These clear tops are definitely not making life easy. I can get one side out, but the other side seems to sort of not want to play nice. Wow, this is amazing. In the space of while I'm struggling to actually get these tops off, making myself look silly, we've gone up to 11 viewers. So thank you very much for everyone who's coming along to watch me struggle with these. It's killing me here, absolutely killing me. Alright, I'm just gonna cut another bit of paper and maybe clean my fingers and these tools in hopes that it will make it not so slippery. Careful. I still feel pretty slippery. Alright, so I got one side and I got the other. There we go. Maybe it's just about good technique. It's pulling the switch out of the station. Now I know that a lot of other switch modding setups, they have the actual plate because it helps clip and hold them in, which I think is part of the reason why this is not working so well, is because the actual switch is not being held in as the top is being forced open. If this symptom persists, which it looks like it is, I may have to ow, just pinched my finger into that switch housing top. I'm gonna have to either abandon this lubing idea, or I'm gonna have to use my plate, my switch tester plate, I think, to get these open, because this is just getting ridiculous. All right, let's try it with the switched plate. And these will snap in. Yeah, I think so. All right. Okay, so they're now mounted there on the bottom of that plate. I should be careful because they're still open switches over there. And let's see how this goes. Well, that side's already lifted on that one because I already had it open, but that didn't look like it did much better. There we go. Alright. Put one open there. For some reason these feel really slippery now, so it may be an effect of the lube doing too good a job getting on everything. No, that's pulling the switch out of the plate as well. Even though that was clipped into the plate, the force I'm applying on it is significant enough to pull it out. Alright, I'm going to abandon that. I'm just going to lube the ones that I have out, because I'm just spending way too much time doing this, and it's not being very productive. I do apologize, but I think I'll probably be able to live without all of the switches being lubed. Those that do get lubed, well, it'll be a luck of the draw. It's alright, it's just a Macropad. It's nothing too crash hot about it. They do sound different, by the way. So I don't know if the microphone's going to pick this up or not, but it's just so this is the lubed switch, and this is the unlubed switch. The sound that they produce is different. Whether the reproduction from across the internet will be able to show that or not, I don't know. Okay, we've got 3 more to lube, and then we'll get cracking on the actual building part of this stream, shall we? Dab dab. Dab dab. Being an absolute klutz today. My wife was saying earlier that she's been really clumsy this morning too. She's been knocking stuff over and spilling stuff. Just wonder if it's the illnesses that's been going around lately. Hey Josh, thank you for coming along. You've just caught me at the end of getting frustrated trying to lube some switches, so I've decided not to bother with the rest of the switches that I'm going to use in this Macropad build. It's not a big deal. It's nice, but Gateron Clears are actually already so naturally light and smooth that even though I'm not lubing them all, I don't think it's a deal breaker, if that makes sense. Holy smokes! I'm just dropping stuff everywhere today. Absolutely dying here. Hopefully I'm not gonna set anything on fire later. That would be awfully unpleasant, I think. So with Christmas coming up, anybody got interesting or different plans on what you're going to do for Christmas, or if you're going anywhere? Just going to hang out at home and chill out? Gonna have some KFC there, Chocan? Alright, so they are done. I'm going to put the lube away because it's just getting redonkulous. Make sure that's as tight as I can. And zip that bag up. Yeah, I would love me some KFC right now too. But there's no KFC nearby for me, unfortunately. We do have a lot of KFC in Australia, but it's not the most popular of fast food joints at the moment. I don't think any fast food's really super popular anymore in Australia. Driving to LA. How far are you from LA, Fluffy Papa? Would probably take me a really long time to drive to LA. And I'd probably have to learn how to breathe water too. No, the gloves are actually alright. The outside of the bag's pretty clean because I did wipe my hands before. The inside of the bag is very, very oily though, so Alright, let's just pop these babies out. Nando's is the only good fast food in Australia. Oh, that's a big claim. I'm not going to really dispute that, only because I don't know all the fast foods. Haven't had Nando's for a really long time, actually. So, let's just get that out of the way. We'll put that aside. Okay, so San Diego, that's not too bad. Now, just excuse me while I have a little bit of water. And then let's have a look at everything that I'm going to be playing with today. So, my ingredients for the build today is I've got 30 Gateron Clear switches over there, and a random assortment of these are now lubed. I think about 9 or 11 of them, 9 or 10 of them. I have one Pro Micro in its packet, bought from AliExpress. I have some solder on the side here. I've got diodes and standoffs and screws, and then here is the actual Nyquist kit that I got, the Macropad kit itself, which it's pretty cool having that Nyquist sticker. So I've shown this before in that the set that I got, I think it was like 12 US plus shipping, something like that, is just the one hand Nyquist 1.2 PCB. There's a plate and a base. Now this is just silk screened on one side, so you can see that the yellow is actually on the other. In terms of its screw layout and orientation, it's going to sort of sit like that, and of course it matches up with the major holes in this pad. It's very similar to a Let's Split in that it's an ortholinear layout, but it does give you options if you want to put in sort of large keys for stabilizers and sort of 2U mods, which is pretty easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build it straight as a 5x6 matrix. I'm not going to put any 2Us, I'm not going to put any stabilizers or anything of that nature. So we will need the plate for the switches to go through, but before we do any of that though, we need to put in some diodes. Now, I'm just going to put that up there and hope they don't slide too badly. There we go. I've got some diodes here in my ingredients tray, and you'll see some that I prepared earlier using my diode bending tool that I designed, 3D printed. Now, using a Nyquist as a game controller would be more than adequate, because you do have your WASDs, and then you can use that for, of course, your weapon switches, grenades, jump, that kind of thing. It just depends on how big the range of keys that you actually need. Now, I play PUBG at the moment, and this would not be sufficient for PUBG because it doesn't have enough keys on it to actually have all of the hotkeys that are used in game. So yeah. So what I was saying before was I've actually got some diodes that I've bent previously using my diode bending tool that I created, but I've got some more to do because there wasn't enough in the ones that I had already bent when I was playtesting with the diode bending tool. So lucky for you guys, you'll get to see my diode bending tool in action live. So there it is, it's 2 halves. There's a push piece here, and then there's the base piece here. It's just slotted, so what you can do is you can just drop in your diodes so that the diode bodies sit in the middle. This one's a little bit larger in terms of its base, because it's got to fit the actual push piece. My other design for the single leg bender is a little bit different, because it pins the body in place, because that's a little bit more important when having a consistent sort of build, a consistent bend with a single leg. So it's a little bit fidgety to get these in, but seems to have a bit of success at the moment. Doesn't really matter which orientation the diode body is, of course, because it's being uniformly bent on both sides. And then we're going to put this tool over the top, and we do need to give it a bit of a sort of a wiggle, so that all the bodies sit in just like that. Okay, and then the magic is 1, 2, 3, squeeze. Come on, there we go. So the legs have had a bit of an angle already bent into them, and now while I'm applying the pressure is I will just pull them upwards, just like that against the body, and voila, I've got some evenly bent diodes. So yeah, there we go. Look at that. It's pretty cool, hey? Oh, going back to the UK, so no KFC. Well, I suppose at least when you're back in the UK, you can have some good quality fish and chips over there. Australia does great fish and chips. UK supposedly does some really great fish and chips as well, and mushy peas depending on where you are. All right, let's bring out the quad hands beast. Look at this baby, an absolute monster, absolute monster. Ah, this cold is knocking me around for 6. Now, there's 2 ways, because you can left hand, right hand this. I feel that because I'm using it in an actual macro pad, it doesn't really matter in regards to the silk screen, which one's going to be visible or not. It's nice having the kitty cat, and having the Pro Micro on this side would mean it's probably closer towards my computer. All the computers that I currently use are all on the right hand side at work at home, so I'd probably set it this way up, which means the Pro Micro is going to be on the underside on the Nyquist sampling pattern. So based on that though, I'm actually going to put the diodes on this side, I think is the best way to do it. So let's clamp this down. Now I've got a lot of arms here, so I might take some of these excess ones out of the way, put them on my filing cabinet because they're magnetic. Okay, and let's do some arm bending, just like that. Now, just checking out the chat, putting together a gherkin for my brother with Christmas, for Christmas with Gat Greens and Gat Clears. Josh is about to have some fish and chips. I haven't had lunch yet. I don't actually know when I'm going to have lunch because it depends on when I finish building this. Don't even know what's for lunch. And Otomo Ice Clickies. So yeah, this quad hands is absolutely awesome. I love it. Well worth the ridiculous amount of shipping it cost for me to get this to Australia because of how heavy it weighs. Alright. I probably don't need to have all 4 corners, but I don't know. I like having stuff secure because that's pretty secure right there. I can sort of tap it and it's not really going anywhere. And I've got it angled so at least the light source is not glaring on that. Here we go. So let's start putting some diodes in. Now the black line should always go towards the square through hole, and that's what I'm gonna do. Look at that, sits pretty well. Gotta go to work tomorrow. Nobody likes to have to go back to work, do they? But bills to pay, mouths to feed. What is going on here? Alright, so everywhere that I see the... I wonder if there's anything on the other side that says the diodes, but there should be 30 here. I've bent 30, so hopefully there will be 30. I think the reason why these ones are vertical is because there's the VCC resistor there. So I'm just gonna try and trust my building instincts and slot them in where I see those square holes. Okay, so they're all going vertical in this context now. Now, do I want to tack them on this side first quickly before I flip them over? Or should I just flip them over because I've got these bendy legs holding them in place? They're holding pretty well, I feel. Some of them might be a little bit loose. Should probably tack them, shouldn't I? I wonder if the rosin fumes is going to clear my nose up and not be so stuffy, hey? Where is this one? This one is down here. Of course, you can always do a sanity check because there should be a diode nearby each switch, and of course the total number of switches and diodes should match. So we'll do a sanity check, make sure we haven't missed any, and we'll know because we'll have leftover diodes as well. Use tape to hold them in place while you solder. I tried using tape, but I found that was inconsistent because they were lifting a little bit if I hadn't pushed it and taped it all the way down properly. So one of the other streamers, I don't remember who it is now, I saw would just go around and do one leg lightly soldered on, and then they'd flip it around and then solder from the other side. And I felt that was actually a pretty decent thing to do, and it does ensure that you get a good sort of contact and holding. Razer Death Adder Woofus. You want to mod your keycaps. Okay, what kind of mod do you want to do to your keycaps? Without answering that question, it's pretty hard to give you any thoughts on the matter. And Keyboard Guru Atsuki, are you sick as well? I am. My daughter and my wife were sick last week, and as you have kids, supposedly, it's just rolling illnesses non-stop. One person gets better, and then patient zero comes back around again. So I started getting a bit of a sore throat on Thursday. Friday I had a work party, and thankfully I was drinking a lot of orange juice and eating Chinese herbal medicine. And then Saturday it sort of came out full flare, and today I'm just a horrible stuffy mess. Okay, so you would like to paint them because membranes don't have keycaps. Now, well, Josh says realistically you can't really paint them. You can, but it takes a lot more effort. You can't do dye subbing on them because they're most likely going to be ABS, but you can actually paint ABS keycaps. What you will want to do though is you will need to surface roughen the keycaps first. So you're going to have to sand them, or you're going to have to grit them up, blast them, that kind of thing, because the surface will need more texture for the primer to adhere to. Now you can get automotive body primer, which is what they use to spray car body parts with, like plastic bumpers, because a lot of those parts are actually made of ABS plastic, which will be the same plastic as your keycaps. It is of course a multi-step process, and of course it will get expensive because you're starting to deal with, you know, having to clean them, having to roughen them up, having to primer them, and then having to paint them. So while it's not impossible, it's a lot more challenging to do so. Okay, so I'm out of diodes in my little tray there, and it looks like I've filled all of the diode spots. So anywhere else that I can see appears to be good. Anyone see if I've missed anything? Now while that's happening, I'm going to plug in the iron which I've got over here off to the side. It's my TS100, and I'll tell you what, it is probably the best iron investment that I made. I do have a couple of irons now. I've got the Yihua iron, and I've also got the TS100, but for space, economy of space, the weight, you just can't go past it. Just cannot go past it at all, and the price makes it really, to be honest, very, very affordable. Okay, so PowerPoint. And it goes. There's the iron, and it is gonna boot up. I hope. What's going on? Yo. Turn on. Let's just reset it. Okay, there's the version 2, and it wants me to press the front button, and there it goes. So very quickly, it's just going to ramp up to temp. Keyboard guru, you got sick going to a job interview on your bike. I hope you at least got the job. Now, with us, if you have a sander, the curvature is going to be potentially a challenge to get it all in. But if you can just build like a very simple jig to help you with that, then for sure it'll make it a lot easier to do that. Then it's just a matter of getting maybe a small amount of primer, because you're not going to need a big amount, unlike you might use for actually painting a lot of automotive parts. So we're at 300, as you can see just here on the bottom of the screen. And let's do, hopefully, a light tack. Uh-oh. There we go. Now, of course, feel free to keep talking amongst yourselves, because I can't keep track of the chat while I'm concentrating on doing this part. And of course, play nice. I think Chokan might be a mod, so if any of you guys are misbehaving, Chokan might give you the slap down, and if he isn't and he wants to be a mod, he can tell me, and I'll see if I can click around and give him some mod rights. And my head position is away from the microphone, so I do apologize if I'm sounding a bit muffled, because I'll be talking from behind. Actually, I'll just move that a little bit over that way. Alrighty, I've done that row, so let's do that. Relatively quick to sort of do just one leg to tack it down. I must say, when I first started doing keyboard builds and I was using thicker solder, oh, this will be tricky because there's 3 of them here. I was using 1mm solder, and there was no real problem with using 1mm because it was from my dad's collection of soldering bits, because my dad used to do lighting, wiring, electrical stuff like lamps and things like that. But going down to the finer solder, I'm using 0.7 now. It makes such a big difference. It really does. Wow, that one's... I'm just going to reflow that one. There we go. I'm not feeling that I need to go lower, because I know some people use like 0.4 solder, but it just means it takes longer to fill the join that you need, especially if you're doing through hole. Now, if you're doing SMD components, then using 0.4 or something like that of that size makes good sense, because you don't want to have too much solder happening, and of course it's going to be quick, nice and easy. So there you go. But I think for through hole, which is what I currently mostly do and prefer, the 0.7 works really well. So I've just gone and given all of them a light tack, and they should all be okay. So now we're just gonna flip that around, and you can see the bird's nest. That is the back of this Nyquist. Rightio. After lubing the switches on my plank, several of them quit activating or activating after I press the switch. Will I need to desolder those switches? It may be that if you put too much lube on your switches, that the lube is actually getting in between the leaf. I don't know how likely that is, because that depends on how careful you were when you were lubing the actual the stems within it. But that's really the only thing I can think about on why that you've ended up in that situation, unless some other dirt and grit sort of got into the switch while you were lubing it. But if you use canned air, it may not dislodge them. Now, if you don't have a means to open the switch tops to check it out inside, then yeah, you're probably going to have to desolder, and that's of course going to be a right royal pain. Nobody in their right mind enjoys desoldering, and anybody who tells you that they enjoy desoldering is straight out lying. I've had some desoldering experience, but it's I've had a bad experience with them because I have lifted pads as part of my desoldering experience. So I'm not the best person to have advice from in regards to desoldering quality and technique. I can do it, but I'm hesitant to do it unless if it's absolutely necessary. So I must say though, I was very lucky with my gherkin that when I had some problems with my gherkin behaving, it was actually just cold solder joints, so I didn't have to desolder the whole Pro Micro. If I did, that would have just been nightmarish, absolutely nightmarish. Pro Micros themselves are a real pain to desolder. Anything with headers are really. Ew. I probably should clip these legs as I go, huh? But it's alright. I'm navigating this forest. Okay. Let's get caught back there. Now hopefully I'm not obscuring the camera or anything like that. Nope. Okay. Good-o. Yo. Those ones are all done. Onto this row. Come on. There we go. Actually, funny saying there you go. My daughter's almost 20 months now. She's not really speaking, but she is trying to speak, and she's been able to make, really interesting correlations and connections to words. So she understands what "there you go" is related to, even though she can't fully pronounce it. So as an adult, it's actually really hard to replicate baby speak, versus of course the other way around, where babies are trying to replicate adult speak. So what I mean by that is, my wife, whenever she hands something to my daughter, she'll say, "There you go." It's a pretty common kind of thing to say. And my daughter now has learnt that when you hand something to somebody, you can say, "There you go." So the other night, finished dinner, and my wife said, "Take your plate to Daddy. He's doing up the washing," and I was there at the sink. My daughter came up with her silicone plate, held it up and offered it to me and said, "There you go," which is her equivalent of "there you go." It's pretty cute, but it's really fascinating about learning and development for kids, really, to pick up that kind of thing. So one of the first things that she ever learnt was to say bye and hi, which is really interesting, because I've been told by a lot of other people who I know who have kids that quite often the first things that kids will learn, besides say like mummy and daddy or something like that, which my daughter doesn't use or say, is no. And it's because it's very often that parents will tell kids no, just as part of, you know, safety and warning and precautions and stuff, like, no, don't touch that, it's dangerous, or things like that. But my daughter actually doesn't use no. So I don't know if it just means that we're you know, very relaxed parents, that we don't have to say no, or we think that she's going to learn because if she makes mistakes and gets hurt or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's been a really fun ride so far these last 20 months in having a small child. Not that children is for everybody, but if you're sitting on the fence and you're not sure about it, I tell you, it's a very eye-opening experience. Now, what are these people talking about? Crypto kitties. I don't know what that is, but they're talking about cryptocurrencies. Things that I don't know very much about, and I don't really have that much spare cash to put into crypto. Although I did see this morning that Bitcoin apparently crashed like 19% or something stupid. So hopefully nobody's in the keyboard community has been ruined. Ow, that was hot. By that crash. Alrighty, come on. We're almost there with these diodes on this. And one more. Okay. So, that's that. Now, I'm just going to go back and touch up on these because some of these don't have that really nice sort of look that you want on your joins. Just make sure that they're not cold joins at all. They should be wicking into that through hole quite nicely, and they shouldn't have sort of a bulbous appearance to them. So I'm just going over and touching it down and wicking it up the leg if needs be, so that they get that nice joint look that they should have. And it only takes, you know, a second or so on each joint for that to be ensured that they have a good joint on them. Now, naturally, nobody's really going to see this except myself and of course everybody else who's watching this build, but there's a certain aspect about craftsmanship, you know, and building something. So if you do have that kind of feel and mentality about it, especially if you're going to be building things for other people as well, you obviously want to try and make it the best build you can. So rightio. Now, I know that some of you guys here are actually supporters on our Patreon as well, so thank you very much if you are one of those. I did put up a post this morning, by the way, in relation to the changes that Patreon are making to their fee structure. So if you're not aware of it and you haven't seen the mail that Patreon has actually sent out to creators and patrons, make sure you do check it out because it will impact you. It impacts everybody. And of course my thoughts on the matter are written very, hopefully clearly on that post I put up this morning, and that way, you know, people will understand my viewpoint and where we stand with the board, and hopefully yeah, you'll be able to make an informed decision about if you need to take any action from the change to the Patreon fee structure system. So we're almost there. Wet that through. Wet that through. Wet through. Okay, And that's it. All those diodes are done. Fluffy Papa says, I don't know how people lube switches all day. Lubed about 20 and it sucks. I did 9 and it sucked. So I know exactly what you mean. Now I'm just going to unplug this iron for the moment, because I'm not going to be using it while I clip these. And Taylor asks, am I going to use the default key map, or am I going to program something new in QMK? I probably will use it as an actual Macropad. I'm not going to do any firmware flashing as part of this build. I normally don't, because I don't know, that's just how I am and how I end up doing things. But if I'm going to use it as a sort of Macropad, I'd probably use it for like quick applications. So if I can, you know, open windows or browsers or programs, that kind of thing, or pre-fill commands in text. Now, I have said this a few times on the podcast and whatnot, that I've got a couple of the novel key big switches coming, and I'm going to hook that up to a Pro Micro to be like a lock terminal logout switch. So those kind of things is what I would find really useful for work purposes. 30 keys here, not 100% sure what I would do with it, but I'm definitely going to be probably using it as a Macropad as opposed to a one-hand default, you know, left hand, right hand keyboard. The Truckend doesn't mind desoldering with his FR300. Is that the Hakko desoldering iron? Now people are reminiscing their experiences with lubing as well. So we're going to do some leg clipping. Now, we've talked about it on the podcast as well, in regards to soldering fumes and whatnot. As you can see, I don't have a ventilation type of system or getup at the moment. I do actually have a box fan that's off the screen that away, that's blowing air to circulate around, so that's kind of helping a little bit there. But I found some research papers that basically said, you know, a lot of these desk carbon filter things aren't actually super effective at capturing the fumes and the compounds released from soldering. Now, I do stress that you're not inhaling vaporized lead unless you are soldering at 600 degrees plus. So at 300 degrees, all that white smoke that's coming off is the rosin flux vaporizing and burning off. It is not lead. What you will have to be careful of, though, is that you'll get lead particulate that is spluttering from the solder. So you'll see little, you know, droplets here and there. That is really the risk that you've got. So make sure you wash your hands and work surfaces and whatnot afterwards, if it's a multi-use surface like my desk. So normally afterwards I'll always wipe it down to try and get rid of any of those. Now, you can have, you know, very small trace amounts of lead. It's not going to absolutely kill you. It just has health implications in the long term. For those people who aren't Australians, you probably don't know who Dr. Karl is, but there's a fellow called Dr. Karl in Australia, Dr. Karl Krasinski, who's like a public science figure, a promoter of science in Australia, and he does talks where he goes through weird and wacky science facts and things like that. And I remember very distinctly that there was one time I went to one of these talks at the university, and he was talking about lead poisoning and how some people just, you know, have constitutions that are insanely Very, very good. One gentleman apparently tried to commit suicide, but he didn't want to take a messy way out, so he ate a whole pile of bullets. The guy ate like 30-something odd pistol rounds in him. And like, as insane as that is, the bullets had gone into his digestive tract and was dissolving the lead. Of course, he had a change of heart and he didn't want to die, so he went to the hospital and they did an x-ray and they were like, we can't operate because in order for us to go in, we're afraid we're going to set the rounds off, or the powder, so you're just going to have to ride it out. And they started giving him chelating compounds to bind with the lead. The guy had like 3 times the lethal dose of lead in his bloodstream, and he turned out fine. He crapped out all of the bullets in the end, and all the compounds that they gave him to help obviously did, and he survived the experience. So he's one of those people that obviously you could take a 2x4 and smack over the head all day long and wouldn't have even felt a thing. Fluffy Papa says, too many switches to lube and tons of NOS vintage blacks. Nice. That's a very nice problem to have indeed. I only have one vintage black on my switch tester, and it's very nice. So here's the Pro Micro. I'm going to install the headers now, and then after I put the headers in, I've got to put in the switches before, of course, I put the Pro Micro on later. So, and I tore it across the tail line, and the packet's sealed past the tail line. It's not even like a Ziploc, honestly. What is this? Come on. Obviously somebody was overzealous when they decided to use the sealing machine. Hey. You ordered a couple of clips. Man. That's pretty cool. You did manage to get in on the crap, the name escapes me now. Not the clip, but the fiel, because obviously the clip is like the simplified version of the fiel, isn't it? Okay, so remembering that I want this to be the bottom side, what I've been told is that what I've seen on the Nyquist website build guide is that the TX0 and the raw should match whichever side the Pro Micro is sitting on. So you should always line that up when you put your through hole pins. That's not really an issue, but it just means because the bottom side is where the switches are going to be and the Pro Micro is going to be, I'm probably going to put it through so that it's the short side through it, like that. And then, yeah, okay. How did I do this last time? Put the short side through it. Did I tape it last time? And then I can solder it somehow. I might have to tape it and then I'll just tack it. And then I'll just have to solder it on the other side, won't I? Tape. Tape, 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 tape. Josh, you have to go. Thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate you hanging out for, you know, however long it's been. About an hour already. Wow, time flies, isn't it? So, yeah, I hope you have a great Sunday, and we'll see you later. See you on the Discord. So let's get that in. Try and... Actually, I have to put the Pro Micro on it, right? Because otherwise the spacing's going to be messed up. Because the angle's going to go all funny. Okay, so let's make sure we get that right. So TX0 and the R. There we go. So I'm going to push... I'm going to run that tape right up against the edge of that header. It's going to go up and over. It's going to hold that down, up, and there we go. Okay, so hopefully that will hold it in place for when I flip this around. And all those headers are still in place. Excellent. So, what? That side didn't do anything. What are you doing, quad hands? You're not doing your job. That's what you're not doing. Yep. Okay. Wasn't able to get onto the fuel. There's supposed to be a group buy coming up. Yeah, it's definitely been a very popular design. So I think that's really fantastic for Mechanisk and Leandrin. Right, let's boot this baby up again, and let's tack in. Well, it's not really tacking in since I'm going to be properly soldering these headers. Just thinking about how I can apply a bit of pressure on that. I may use another arm. Let's go and put that there. Alright, so, and then let's give that a nudge. Right, yeah, so they should be sitting flush now, which they are, which is great. And the iron, look at that, is already up to temperature. How awesome is that? So here we go. Come on. That seemed a little bit yeah. I say though, with Pro Micropads though, they're so tiny, so tiny. You got to be careful not to put too much heat and burn them off. Of course, I'm going to go back and touch up on them again, just like I did with the diodes, to make sure that they have good joins on them. So I'm not super worried right now if they don't, or if they're looking a bit bulbousy, a bit funny. Oi, lift. Right. What is everybody working on? A Nyquist. Being a bit facetious there. Wow, that one's really not wanting to play. Okay, there we go. After this, I still have the HIV 60 to build. I still have my Delta split because I'm still short switches. And then I've also got that 96 key to build. And then I'm going to be out of things to build. So hopefully I'll have a bit of time over Christmas to be able to do some more live streams and builds. I have said before that I'm probably going to do a giveaway with the HIV 60. It's just a matter of when I get time to build it and also where our subscribers are at by that time. Keto pancakes. Cameron saying that he wants to he's waiting for stabilizers for his first ever build. Purple white gold GH60. Sounds pretty cool. I've got a GH60. It was my first build as well. I don't use it. I probably should pull it out and do something with it, but it's nostalgic because I was using a Firebrand Firestarter soldering iron with a big fat tip and that 1mm solder that I spoke about earlier, and it worked. Really love the experience of building it, so that's also part of the reason why I still stay in and I do builds. Just touching up on these and reflowing them. If it'll reflow, there we go. I love watching solder reflow because it's just that
that look of that liquid solder when it melts down. Love it. It's like that T1000 from Terminator, you know? Awesome. Right, so let's put that down, and then let's flip her around. Make sure the Pro Micro can come off and go on smoothly. It does, which is great. Now the Nyquist build guide itself actually says to take the plastic of these headers off, so you can actually get the Pro Micro down and as low as possible. Now the standoffs, I've lost my standoffs, that are provided with this kit, oh, there they are. They've got a lot of height to them, so I'm not sure what they are. Like, they might be 12 mil or something like that. I feel like there's plenty of clearance, so it's not really an issue, but I will actually trim the excess pin length off after the Pro Micro is soldered on. So, but I don't feel it's necessary, and it ensures that you're not going to get any shorting out from the pin of the switches as well. Right, now comes the snapping switches through part. Oh, dying here. Sorry about the sniffing. Let me just clear some of that rubbish aside. Now let's take away that extra arm, and now the good thing about the iron as well is it's got its own timer on it, so you're not going to overheat it too badly. It will just time out when it gets to that point. So we're going to have that up, and let's start putting our corner switches in. Which way do these go? They go that way. So all the way in. That one goes on the top as well. That's something that you always have to be really careful about, is making sure that your pin orientations are correct when you first put them in, and watch out for it so that you don't bend your pins when you do in the first couple. So now I do actually have to take this off. I may have to hold it elsewhere, but here's the first lot going in. So what's happening here? So I've got the pins are through here and here, here and here, here and here, here and here. Everything seems to line up, so let's push them through, because they are PCB mount switches, so they've got the extra legs that you've got to make sure that they go through. They're not plate mount switches. They're going in with a so I've just pushed on the plate rather than switch, which caused my plate to pop down. Let's push on the switch, make sure it goes all the way through if it can. There we go. Oh, these guys are hard. That one still needs to go in. There we go. It's in. That one still needs to go all the way in as well. And it's in. So there we go. Man, I'm saying that word, there we go. Well, that phrase, sorry. A lot, aren't I? Now, one of my daughters picking it up. So you can see there's the plate, and the switches are sitting flush against the PCB. So we'll solder those 4 in first. Now I can hold it by the plate. And then that'll keep the orientation locked down, and then the others can go through neatly. Now we are down to 200 odd, and just giving it a quick pickup, and now it's starting to ramp up back to 300. Keto pancakes, very low carb, no flour. M47, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much. So you just got here from watching one of the mold making videos. Artisan making is a completely different field. It does take a very different mindset and money, perseverance as well. So thank you very much for actually continuing to watch our stuff. Really appreciate that. So I'm just getting that first switch in. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that, you know, if you've got any questions about mechanical keyboards or building, if you're new to the community M47, that you can ask here, because plenty of the guys here in the chat right now are actually really experienced on keyboards. So Chokan here made keyboards in Japan. Also has his own YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. Everyone, of course, has different content to each other in certain ways, so there's no, it's not a competition or anything like that, since you could be subscribed, be a fan of everybody's channels. Really doesn't hurt to get different opinions and see what everyone else is talking about. And of course, if you do have questions about artisan making and stuff like that, mold making and casting, just ask. Doesn't matter that my live stream might not be about artisan making, because I'm more than happy to answer what I can. Okay, so those 4 switches are in. Now we got to snap in the rest of them. I'm going to unplug the iron, let that cool down, because it'll take a little while to get these switches in. Making sure, of course, we also get those switches in to behind that Pro Micro. So there's the 4 corners. Start popping these babies in. Hopefully. What? Rightio. Which way has it gone? This. That's the way it goes in. Get it through the plate. Sit flush against the plate. That's the only issue that I have with doing things with plates, is you got to make sure that they go in right. Otherwise they're free floating and the plate's flexing. But that's just part of building keyboards, isn't it? Plateless builds are just faster, easier, but of course it does change the way that the keyboard sounds and the way that the keyboard feels. So M47, you were in another stream a few weeks ago. Been working on a few artisans. Oh, well, that's fantastic. Then I guess you don't need to ask me anything. You're going to be a pro at it. And then people will be coming to you asking questions on how you make your stuff. Isn't that right? Come on. I'm going to end up with like all these little pin pricks on my fingers from pushing these bloody pins in, I reckon. Gotta get it in. Gotta get it in. Come on. Well, the pins are in, but it's just trying to get it through the plate. Why are you not behaving? Yeah. And this is why I don't like dealing with plates, because this switch does not want to sit flush. Now I can't pry it out. What have I got that I can use to try and pop this out? Which one is it? It's that one on the end. Is that going to come out? What a pain. So, yeah, Taylor, no worries. Come back whenever you got the time, and if you don't make it back, then thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. Now, M47 said it began a few weeks ago and actually just got supplies today. Ooh, that's going to be exciting. What kind of stuff are you planning on using? What did you end up getting for your actual supplies. What I'm trying to do that I'm not showing really here is I've just got like a blunt penknife object. I'm trying to use it to force the plate up because the switch is caught at an angle, so I might have to pry it now from the other side because it's not working. Oh, right. Is that gonna... So that side's down. Alright, that's as good as it's going to get. Obviously, I probably should have done this in a different order, huh? Probably should have put all the switches through. But everything that I've been told up to now says that I should put these through the plate after doing the four corners. Why that is, I don't know. But I would have thought it'd be logical to put them all through the plate first. But apparently that's not a good idea because you can have alignment issues. Ow, that hurts. But as long as they make it all the way through and they snap into the PCB, that's what really matters. Not so much about the plate. Now I know that these are not contacting the diodes because I can see that through the actual side of the PCB as well. So yeah. Ow. Holy crap. Probably wouldn't be punching holes in my fingers so badly if I'd done the diodes on the bottom of the build, because then they would be nice and smooth and all the spiky bits would be on the top side. But I thought, you know, I'll do it this way, and now I'm being punished for it. Umu smooth cast pigments and painter's mask. Okay. Did you end up going with a vacuum or a pressure setup as well? Now I know it's not absolutely necessary, so I'm not saying or suggesting that you actually absolutely have to use them, but if you do want to have much better production quality in regards to bubbles and defects, having the vacuum and the pressure setup does make a big difference. So, and you'll find all the major sort of artisan people will do that, and that's because there's a reason for it. So yo, snap. Man, this plate is like being pushed so far down now. It's like flexing hard. You can, I don't know if you can see that, but it's not even going into those. I wish I had something that was like a hook. I do. Bubbles out of sight, out of mind. Surface bubbles. Surface bubbles are what are going to kill you. A lot of people are very, very particular about surface bubbles. So make sure that if you do have them, you find a way around them, because people get really upset about surface bubbles. That's not working how I was thinking it could have worked, but I can kind of get some little bit of movement there. Yeah, it's improved a little bit, not by too much though. I might have to put like something through in between each row later and see if I can jack the plate back up. But you know what? It's a build. It's a learning experience, and we'll just have to see how it goes. So let's see if I can speed up this process a little bit, because obviously time is ticking, and while you guys are chilling out on your Saturday night or your Sunday afternoon, you may have time restraints. So yeah, let's get those in. Oh. Yep. 2 more rows to go. Look at how pitted my finger is turning. If it'll focus, all those pits and bumps and holes. Come on, there we go. You figure if the worst comes to worst, you'll try and figure something out before you drop $100 on a pressure chamber. Mostly an experiment, and if I need to, you'll get one. Yeah, it's not a bad way to go about it. What kind of sort of artisan and sculpts are you developing, by the way? Or is that like an absolute secret? Now, I have disabled links in the chat, so you won't be able to put pictures, but you can certainly describe them. And of course, if you need any help in promoting them, more than happy to do shout outs on the podcast. And depending on if you feel that way inclined, if you feel like sending a sample, I can also do video reviews here on YouTube too. So always available options, always happy to help out the community. I don't have a pressure chamber. I probably should get one, but the problem that I have is because I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, I don't have a garage, don't have a shed, and I have a little one running around. It's a safety concern for me to have a pressure pot, because I also need to have a compressor, and well, even though you don't have to run super high pressures, even 40 to sort of 50 psi, which is what you'd want to run your pressure pot at, can be dangerous for young kids to what's going on there? Ooh, so there is at least one switch that's contacting a diode. So that one down there, I don't think it's going to show up very well, but that one is actually contacting the diode. Well, blow me. Snap. The pins still go through. There we go. But just by forcing that through, it's actually bent the diode legs slightly. So it's just something to be aware of. If you are going to build one of these, then you might want to consider doing the diodes on the back now. Almost there. Please tell me I've got enough switches out. Am I one short? Oh no, there it is. Awesome. Planning to do an artisan blank from a cast of a key from a vintage keyboard. That sounds really interesting. Hey, Boom Boy. Yo, what's up? What's the time over your way now? It's probably only like 9 o'clock or something, eh? Nice and early in the day, isn't it? What's up? What's up is that I am... Ooh. Wow. Okay, so there is a reset switch, by the way, that I completely forgot about. Holy crap. This is disastrous. So the Nyquist Macropad kit comes with a reset switch, which is this baby here in my hand. And I didn't put it in. It actually lives right here. Holy crap. It's meant to sit through those holes in like that. Poop. Now, can I solder this in creatively? The answer is yes, I can. Okay, so I was meant to have soldered it in on the other side. I completely forgot about it, but I can get to the back two from here, and I can get to the front two from here. So let's give that a crack. I've put that in now because I'm going to be soldering the rest of the switches anyway, so it's just as well I caught it. Isn't that a good thing? Absolutely great. To I'm gonna have to drop that low, and I yes, get down there, bend. Okay. I'm glad I caught that. Otherwise, that would have been a pain in the ass. If I was like, why is this left out here? What is this? It's a switch. Oh, where was that switch meant to go? Yeah, M47, not a problem. Like, I don't want to, you know, pry too much and get involved in that kind of thing. I was just curious to know what kind of artisans you were looking at doing. So doing something vintage is pretty cool. So I'm just going to pick up the legs. I keep the legs simply because you never know what kind of extra pins, and if you want to make headers and things like that out of them, end up with a collection of little metallic bits. Look at that, it's already up to 300. Love it. Quick, fast. So let's finish soldering these switches in. Yep. Now I'm going to solder this sucker in and solder that switch in as well. Different kind of switch. It's a reset switch. I mean, it's not a big deal because you can still get into it and do the Pro Micro reset anyway. It just means you have to short out the pins instead of pressing a button. So it's not a deal breaker. It's really just more of a convenience factor than anything else. Now, I don't have a TRS jack involved because this is only a one-handed macro pad. Otherwise, I would have to put in the TRS jack, which is over here as well. So I've already done that switch. Silly me. $10:16 is not that early at all. It's like time for morning tea there, Bill. But I suppose, you know, kids these days, weekends, right? Probably staying up late doing goodness knows what. That was really messy, that one. There you go. I think my tip needs to be cleaned. There should be more Alps artisans that can be arranged, says M47. Actually, I'll tell you what artisans there should be more of. There should be more buckling spring artisans. Because I think really the only person that I've seen doing buckling spring was Bro of Bro Caps. So now that I actually have a buckling spring keyboard, not that I buy artisans, mind you, because I don't have the money for it. I mean, I do make my own artisans, of course, but I don't have the same level of sophistication and artistry yet compared to some of the major manufacturers. My artisan collection is actually very, very light. Maybe that'll change over the time and years. I enter, you know, the giveaways and I donate to the charity raffles and stuff like that, simply because it's a greater chance of me winning that than actually affording an artisan or trying to buy it on Mech Market, because yeah, I spend all my money on builds and bits and pieces rather than artisans. Making good pace here, I think. You wish you had a buckling springs. anyone can send images over chat. You can put the link in, but you got to break up the address so that it isn't recognized as an address. Now, I know Bill here has admin rights as a mod, so maybe he can put that link in as a proper fixed up link if you want to post that. Of course, he'll have to check it to make sure it's appropriate and safe for everyone to click on. With responsibility comes great power, or the other way around. Now, you guys have also got to give me feedback on my live streams and my building and the video, because it's not very closely zoomed in, so you probably can't really see a super amount of detail as I'm actually soldering it, besides the fact that the actual soldering iron and what I'm doing in terms of movements. I think Ski with Pete, 1-ups, videos with the soldering cam is pretty cool, because it does give you that much closer look. But that said, you know, I don't claim to have the best soldering technique out there anyway. But if people are interested in having a much closer look at the soldering process and how I do it and the quality of my joins, then it's something that I'll have to investigate and look into in regards to, you know, the camera setup. I would love to be able to get a proper camera that actually has a controllable zoom as well, but of course that's a cost factor, and it means additional peripherals, because I would have to get capture cards and stuff like that. I'd have to have a gantry set up properly over the top of my computer and workspace, so that you can actually have the camera supported safely over the workspace. And yeah, it just adds more sort of complexity to the whole situation and the deal. Rightio, second last switch. And that last switch is done. Soldering cam is nauseating. Hey Esteban, thank you for coming along and checking out the video and the stream. You wanted to say hi? Thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming along. So we're getting towards the end of this build, and I've just soldered in the switches, and what I'm doing now is I'm just going through and I'm re-wetting all of the switches just to make sure that the joins are going to be not cold joins. It's just something that I like to do. I know a lot of people don't tend to do that, but it's just something that I like to, because it just ensures the effort that I've put in is going to be okay. Now I still got to solder the other two legs on that switch at the top as well. Plus, I love seeing solder reflow. It's just cool. Figuratively, of course, since it's pretty hot for it to reflow. A couple of 100 degrees. Now, I do have a bit of flux that's actually here on the PCB. You can see it. It's that sort of amberish color. It's pine sap, really, but I don't actually have any isopropyl alcohol to clean it off, so it's just going to live on the PCB anyway. Reckon you could 3D print something that clamps onto the iron and a webcam snaps into? Yeah, I think you can definitely do that. It's just really a matter of having the iron to make measurements of, and then of course being able to test fit it. I don't have a huckle, so I can't make one for the huckle since I won't have one to sort of play with. I can definitely do it for the TS100 and my Yihua. Not that I really use the Yihua anyway because of just how convenient this TS100 is. Just feel like when I'm doing this, it's like, what you thinking about, bae? I'm thinking about soldering cams. Don't worry about cam girls. Think about soldering girls, hey? Not that my wife solders or anything like that. Although it'd be nice if my daughter got interested and involved in building. That would be pretty cool. But I think she's a few years away from doing that right now. We're almost there. Delivering heat to all of these pins, making sure that they're going to sit down well. This thing pumps a lot of heat for a very tiny unit, and the tips are relatively affordable too, so which is really great. Second last switch. Okay, so those are done. And the only other thing that's left to solder is those top two pins on that reset switch. Oh, that's warm. Very, very warm. Alright, so the challenge is going to be able to get the iron in and the solder in as well. So I'm gonna tilt that around. Clamp that up there. Gonna clamp that up there. And let's just put these arms out that way to support the weight underneath it. Should be good. Here goes nothing. Look at that. Through hole. Piece of cake. Nothing a bit of common sense ingenuity could not fix. Done. Done. So, the last thing to do, of course, is put on the Pro Micro. So let's flip this baby back around. And make sure we get the correct orientation for what we need it to do. Let's get those arms up. I'm going to have to move this one. Yep. Just like that. And TX0 and the raw up here. We have TX0 and raw. So we're just going to drop that in. Just like that. And it's sitting pretty good. The last lot of soldering to do. Just wondering if I should maybe tilt that a little bit better so you guys can see it a little bit nicer. I'll have to check out that link in a moment there, M47, and thanks very much, Bill, for fixing that link up. There we go. 1, 2. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pins done. Now to the other side. 1 ground, reset, VCC, A3, A2, A1, A0, 15, 14, 16, and lucky last 10. Rightio. So they are all technically soldered. Now I'm just going to go and do my touch up, of course. Reflow, reflow, reflow. Make sure that wicks all the way into the through holes. Make sure it has a good join. Done. All the soldering done. Okay, so do I plan on doing an Alps build? Asks Fluffy Papa. Hey, Resi CS? Finally got your switches from KBD fans. Fantastic. And then M47 says another one just came out of the oven. Oven? Yeah, oven baking them. I guess you must be using Sculpty if you're oven baking them. Now, just going to let that cool. I'm going to put my fat spool of solder away because I won't be needing that anymore. And I can unplug the power pack for the soldering iron. Put the child safety plug back in so my daughter doesn't go shoving things into the power board. Right. Let me let's check out these pictures. Copy, link, address, paste and go. You know what? That didn't want to work very well, did it? Let's just do that instead. Copy. Home. Delete. Home. Delete. There we go. Paste and go. Right. So let's check it out. It's loading. She's loading. Let's open up another browser. Oh, some very big high quality pictures you got going there. While that's happening, I am going to see how that sits with a oh dear goodness, where are my... Did I screw up again? I may have. Huh. I did. So you know how earlier I was talking about making sure that the plate was the right way round? I didn't put my plate on the right way round. So I've screwed up, which is actually hilarious, because I was like, where do I put these standoffs? And the holes don't match up, because I got the plate the wrong way round. Son of a gun. Well, that sucks. Do not build when you're sick, because that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to end up with a bad build. So, yes, Rip says, you clipped us. But I'm just checking the height of these anyway. If it had been correct, then, yeah. Well, everyone's saying it's desoldering time. Nope, not going to happen. I'm not desoldering this sucker. But the cool thing is, it still technically works. Don't get me wrong. I can always just 3D print something anyway that will allow these holes to fit in. So there's these big fat 4 holes. So I can 3D print something that will allow this to actually still sit and sort of slot in. So that's not really that big a deal. So I guess that actually concludes this build, because I stuffed it up. And now I have some spare standoffs and screws. Wow. I did not... Oh, Prink, right. Well, now I know who you are. That was really interesting. I'm actually going to open that up so everyone can see it, and I'll turn that on. So these are the sculpts that M47 have played with. So that's pretty cool. It's very nifty. It's a good start. What I would recommend, of course, is to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, you are going to make sure that the surfaces are really smooth, because any fingerprints, any bits of dust, any bits of hair that's textured on the surface of your keycap is going to turn up when you actually do the cast of them. Okay, so I can see there's like some surface imperfections that are sort of happening around here, and there's like a line there. I don't know if that's a bit of fluff, but any of that detail will turn up in your mold, which means it will also turn up in the caps that you cast out of that mold. So make sure that you do clean it up and get it as best as you can, because those details do pick up. All right. So let's go back. Wow. I'm flabbergasted on what I've managed to do to myself here, but let it be a learning experience for everybody to make sure that your plate orientations are correct, because I obviously didn't pay attention when I put mine together. I'm just going to plug in the Pro Micro now anyway. Can't even probably blah blah. I can't even plug in the Pro Micro because I don't have enough USB micros free, because my USB micro is powering the light source rather than my normal desk cable. Oh no, I can do this. I can do this. I bought a triple pack online cheap, so I could play around with some things that I have planned coming up, and it's because I have a spare normal desk extension jack, so let's put that in there and then put the other end in. Hopefully the Pro Micro will light up and show me that it's good. Here we go. There we go. So the Pro Micro is on, and let's test at least if the reset switch works. I don't know if that's meant to do anything. Is it not working? Well, that's not good. Oh no, it must be because the blink program. I've got to wait 8 seconds. By default, Pro Micros, if you're not aware, have a blink program installed on them, and it's supposed to make, I think, the LED blink. Is that right? I haven't done anything with this, so you know what? Let's unplug that and let's just plug that in again. Okay, so that backlight has lit up. Is it going to execute the blink on it? I'm going to test the shorting on it. So it should be ground and reset twice. Hello? Maybe I screwed this one up more than I thought. Or I've got a bad Pro Micro. Yeah, it's interesting. It's not behaving the way that I thought. Well, it's blinking again, or at least it blinked. Huh. Well, I don't have really anything else that I can say at the moment because I don't know what's going on, and obviously my head is not thinking straight. I will of course have to have a play and try and load a bit of firmware on that and see if it works. Otherwise, yeah, I had a bit of fun for 2 hours building something that's a really good paperweight, and then I really will have to desolder all of these switches, which I would not look forward to. Right, yeah, so let's just go through some comments while I was just dicking around with the Pro Micro. Planning to leave them the color of the sculpting. Their sculpts, mold will be made from them. Giving it a coat of sculpty glaze. Well, that would definitely work and help smooth it out. Do you think you would ever make them with Alps mounts? Alps stems? Then yes. Ideas on smoothing the sculpt. I don't know what sculpt is like, but I use CX5, which is challenging to get hold of sometimes. So it's this stuff in here. CX5 starts to melt and flow when you heat it up. So what typically people will do is they'll actually get like a heat gun or something like that, and they'll just blow it over, and then the surface will soften and melt and smooth over. I know that you can also buff and polish it. So Idea 23, for example, actually lets it cool down until it's really hard, and then he'll buff it with a fine cloth to get out the surface imperfections. So that's another option as well for you. Now, how hot is this iron? It's still pretty hot. Rightio. So, we're kind of at the Q&A point while I pack up and whatnot. If you guys have any questions, of course, please chuck them into the chat, and I'll chat while I cry internally about this. It was going so well. It really was. Now, I do have a couple of more things to build, as I mentioned earlier. So there's the 60% HIV. The Harold the Fourth build is really what HIV stands for, not the other thing that HIV is often known as. Give me a second. So the question that the Boom Boy asked was, why did I build it with Gateron Clears? I built it with Gateron Clears because I had some. And they were given to me by somebody at the first Sydney meetup, and there was only like 34 of them in a box because it was left over from a build that they had done and got. And I thought, you know, I haven't actually built anything with Gateron Clears, and for a Macropad, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to be constantly, you know, consistently pressing or typing on it. So for, you know, a one switch hit kind of scenario, that's perfectly fine. That's why I built it with Gateron Clears. Oh, sorry about that. Had to hear me snorting my own my snot. Unpleasant, isn't it, for everybody involved? M47, we do have a Discord, but it's not like a public Discord as such. The best way to get hold of me is actually, you can just email us at theboardpodcast@gmail.com. So you can even message me here on YouTube as well, and then yeah, I can pass on whatever details or information that you've got once everything is ready to go. Put those extra arms away. Oh, absolutely, my nose is just getting worse. Rightio, so got some bits of rubbish put away there. Now, of course, if you guys have feedback on the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, or if you got suggestions or things that you want to share with the community, and you feel like, you know, we can help you out by doing so with the podcast or here on YouTube, you can also get in contact with us at that same email address. A lot of our competitions that we run, you can now put in entries for those giveaways to that email address as well. Okie dokie. That is pretty much it. Wraps up on the stream and my failed, almost complete build of the Nyquist. I do hope that the Pro Micro is going to work and recoverable, but I'll have to deal with that at a later stage. As for the reset switch, I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. If I have to desolder the sucker, I'm going to cry, but well, we'll do that at another date. Any tips for a first post on Reddit with the caps when they're finished? I would say just take some really great pictures. You can also put them up on the Artisan Macro subreddit, because that exists now as well. So it's just r/artisan macro. Is that right? Keycaps. If you do a search for it, you should be able to find it. So yeah. And then just explain who you are, what they're called, maybe a couple of different colorways. Just be honest about your experience, and I'm sure people will give you the feedback as brutal as the community can be, and hopefully they'll be not too unkind to you. So rightio, just going to leave that there to keep cooling down before I pack it away. Thank you very much, of course, to everyone who came along. I'm sorry that I did end up with something that was finished and completed, but in theory it would be a pad that would look something like that. But I hope you had a good time hanging out anyway and watching me solder and just chat. Okay, I am now going to head off and find some lunch. So cheers, and I'll be releasing the episode of the podcast later tonight for those who are hanging out for that. Make sure you have it on RSS, or you can check it out on Patreon or via Facebook, because we release it across a couple of different platforms as well simultaneously. So I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'm going to count to about 6, because I think there's maybe like a 6-second delay or something like that before the stream cuts off, and that way I'm not going to seem a bit rude. Chocan, there is not going to be a desoldering stream. And Fluffy Papa, thank you very much for coming along. Same with you, Bill, plus Esteban. Sorry that Taylor didn't make it back in time, but everybody else who's lurking, thank you for coming along. And as always, until next time, happy clacking. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. Waiting for it to turn up on the other page. And we're good.